Hello everybody. In this video I want to discuss why I was shot by my father, and I want to talk about what engendered that act of gratuitous violence. Okay, well, let's get into it. First I want to talk about the kind of person my father is, okay? I want to get into it, okay? This one day I was living at home, it was tough to get a job at one point. I was living at home. I was taking the EMT course, actually. I wanted to be an EMT, right? But I was living at home during this time, and I hear my father. Now, okay, there was a problem with trees from other yards growing into my father's yard, okay? And he had a problem with that, okay? He took tremendous umbrage with it, okay? One time he had the trees cut, and as a result, the neighbors in our neighborhood actually they stopped talking. They had a falling out over it. My father was actually friends with the guy, and they actually stopped talking over that. Over my father cutting the guy's trees. Okay, he didn't cut it down, but he cut the trees. He trimmed the trees. So what happened was, this one day I come outside and I see my father. He's snipping. I guess like he was. Well, first of all, I hear him, yelling and screaming and just using profanity and so much very harsh language against this old Italian lady who lives 2 houses down. I guess she does the gardening for the house next door, okay? And she was telling my father not to cut the plants because the plants were going through the fence and coming into my father's yard. So my father's yelling at her. He's calling her, "You C-U-N-T, F-U," this and that. I'm like, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. But then this other gentleman who lived, now I'm talking about the house to the side of us, okay? The guy to the house, there was you could say north of us. Like, this is the house west of us, right? The house north of us. The guy comes out and he begins to reproach my father for, he says, "Hey, why are you, saying, this woman like that?" He's like, "Listen, you should, control yourself." My father says, "Listen, I will be happy to help you put in your bushes. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. I'll do this kind of work for you." And my father's doing that. He's trying to ingratiate himself and endear himself to someone so he could be, granted a pass, if you will, or be granted dispensation to hurt someone else. And that's sort of what he does with me. He does to everyone, okay? But let me tell you what happened. My father and my mother had been arguing for several weeks, okay? It got to a point that my sister would call the house, and I'd pick up, and I'd be in the middle of it. I'd try to get out. I'd go out, come home. I'd hear it. I'd be like back and forth, back and forth. You know what it was about? They were arguing about, I guess they were taking my dog, or my sister's dog that my parents raised somehow. How she got them to do that. I mean, my sister has her ways. Good for her. They were taking my dog to a dog park, and I guess this dog walker, this lady who is 20 years my father's junior, comes to talk to my father. And I guess, they were walking ahead of my mother, and my mother has bad knees. Because they were walking ahead of her and they were in their own conversation, they were laughing, my mother was not included in the conversation. Now, my mother is, now I'm not saying this because she's my mother. We actually don't have, like I said, there's a lot that I do have a lot of acrimony for my mother, a lot of resentment. But I am going to say she's a pretty woman. She is a good-looking woman. A lot of other women comment on how pretty she is, actually. And it's almost like, if you notice, like, something about women, when women see another woman who's aged well or looks attractive, it's almost like a heroic act. Like that's, it's almost like something that they venerate tremendously, But anyway, what happened was, I guess because they were walking ahead of her, my mother would say, "You're making an ass of me. You were walking with the dog walker, and what are you having?" Almost like trying to imply my father was having an affair without really saying it. And it got to a point that even my father and I were on the same side. We were like, "Mom, are you making the egregious implication that my father is having an extramarital affair with this 40-something-year-old dog walker?" Because my father's an older man. My father's in his 60s, So, And she's like, you made an ass of me, this and that. Now one day, I guess because my mother is used to other women coming up, and like I said, just really being just coming up and really giving her, just giving her attention. Like, oh, you've aged well, and she's used to other women. I guess she looks like a maternal figure. A lot of like women come up to me and they say, "Right, your mom's so pretty," and they just my mother saying hi to them is like, oh, she's so nice, just because of the way she looks. It's amazing, you know what I mean? But I don't know why. I don't know why that is. They do that here. I guess on this one time, my father finally got, my father was getting the attention and my mother wasn't, and she was angry about it. She was like, oh, you wouldn't wait for me, you mean you're walking ahead of me, and because I can't walk that fast, and you're making an ass of me, you're making a fool of me. And so I guess one day the dog walker calls the house, okay, and I guess the dog walker calls the house and invites my father to a barbecue, all right, and my mother was just incensed. My mother was just absolutely beside herself. She was angry. She was like, now she's calling the house, and you're going over there. What's going on? You're making an ass of it. And this is what they're arguing about left and right. Now my mother is also rolling her eyes at my father while my father is arguing with her. All right, like she does that. She'll roll her eyes and be like, I'm not rolling my eyes. I remember as a kid, my mother and father fighting, coming down, seeing objects strewn all over the floor, seeing things broken, holes in the wall, faces red, yelling, and my mom looking at me, oh, we're not fighting. Oh, we're not fighting. Like, it's like, like you don't know what, it's almost like that gave me, it gave me a lack of confidence in what I saw, because there were times I'd see something and question what I saw. Like, that taught me that I can't trust what I saw, all right? And it programmed me to believe that I can't trust what I saw when I see things in life. And yeah, it did some real psychological damage to me. Yeah, I can't even... Anybody who is in the field of psychology right now who is watching this, if there is anybody out there, if anyone even, if they're still watching, like I said, it's a really sad story. It's a pathetic story, really. So finally... my dad had been taking some medication for his testosterone, which I guess made him angrier. Because this one day I come downstairs, I hear things banging every 5 seconds. Things banging. I thought he was killing her. I hear rumbling and banging. I said, get out of the house, get out. I thought that he was grabbing her and physically removing her from the house. So I was gonna come down and try to stop it. I was like, hey, what's going on? I was like, hey, listen, everybody calm down. Now I'll admit, during this time, I'm using invective too. I might have been being loud too. I'm not, like I said, I'm not, the calm voice of reason. I'll admit, I was not the calm voice of reason, but who would be living in that environment? Why was I there? I'll get to that. That's that I'd have to go into my life story, okay? But what happens is, I'm talking to her, and one day I tell my mother, I'm like, hey, Mom, you need to stop fighting with him because you're rolling your eyes at him. You're driving him crazy. Okay. I come downstairs this one day, right? That day I heard the rumbling. I thought my father was assaulting my mother. So I came downstairs and I see my mother. I go down in the basement. I hear things breaking. It sounds like somebody is just breaking things. Like it's like to a chorus of yelling, and my mother says, she looks at me, she comes up the steps and says, I did a horrible thing. I did a terrible thing. I'm like, what did you do? And she's like, I made him mad, and now he's breaking things. I'm like, Mom, you engendered this. You made this happen. You've been rolling your eyes at him and telling him you're not rolling your eyes for weeks now. You've been yelling and screaming at him for 3 weeks. Now he's finally snapped. You got him. You got what you wanted, and now you're crying about it. This is exactly what she used to do with me. Get you to just snap, so she could be the victim. And look at the way she is. All these other women, she'd get that attention. Now this video is gonna cut off. I'm going to continue it. Okay. If you'd like to continue to watch this video and hear the conclusion of the story, I would appreciate it. Thank you very much. About five, what do you got? What do you got here? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I